In this video, we're going to talk about some ways that we can help you improve your strumming. Obviously, the first thing we need to talk about is how to strum. What I teach all of my students is we have to talk about how you're going to hold the pick. Here's the thing. You want to hold the pick hard enough to where you're not going to drop it, although you will drop it from time to time, but you want to also hold it loose enough to where it sort of does the work for you. You don't want to hold on so tightly all the time. It's a combination of the pick in your fingers, the grip in your hand, your elbow, and even your shoulder. All strumming is, we are essentially taking the pick and we are pushing it down through the strings. This can happen slowly. This can happen more rapidly. And we can do it down as well as up. We can strum hard. We can strum soft. Up, down, and so on and so forth. Everything about strumming the guitar sort of starts there, and then it gets more rhythmic. Then we are essentially playing to beats. And no, I'm not talking about Beats by Dre. I mean beats. In this example, I was strumming down on the beats being played on the metronome, or the clicks, if you will. And in between the clicks, on the off beats, I was strumming up, a little bit softer than I was strumming down. This is perhaps one of the most simple strumming patterns that anyone can learn and get really good at, and I highly suggest using a metronome to do so. Another thing that you're really going to need to get good at is muting. Ha 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 ha, I'm hilarious. Muting is when you take your fingers and you lightly rest them on the strings like this. We're not pressing down, because if you do so, it's going to sound something like that, which we don't really want to do at this particular time. But if you lightly rest your fingers on the fretboard and you strum like so, you'll achieve a muted sound. This is very important for everything we're going to talk about in this video. Let's try this one together. I have my fingers on the strings lightly muted, and I'm going to start the metronome at 72 beats per minute. I will just be strumming down on all of the beats and up in between the beats. 2, ready. We have to familiarize ourselves not just with the metronome, but with our own internal metronome, which is known as pulse or groove. It's very important to develop this ability, and one of the strongest ways to develop this ability is by using a metronome. Let's continue. Now, while there are plenty of other time signatures and tempos, etc., out there to mess around with, we're going to keep things in this video in common time, or 4/4. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how we can take this simple pattern, change a few things around, and make it a little bit more interesting. Here are some different examples of strumming patterns that we can use by simply strumming down or strumming up in a different order or pattern while relying on the metronome to maintain my pulse until I get good enough to do it without. Although I would caveat that it's probably a good idea to get used to the metronome, as you will more than likely be using it in a studio setting or a live setting. So you might as well make it part of your routine as a guitar player to help you get better with rhythm. It will make you very strong. Ask any professional drummer and they will agree. You definitely want to build your muscle memory. So it might seem kind of awkward at first, but you're going to get better and better the more you do it. But I highly suggest you start simple with the more simple strumming pattern that I showed you at the beginning of this video before you attempt to do any of the other ones. A few other things that you can try are octaves, which are used in lots of popular music genres. All you have to do is put your first finger on a root note and then skip a string over a whole step to get the octave. Now you also have to make sure your sixth string is muted by your first finger lightly touching it. The fourth string is muted just by having your first finger sort of smothering it there. Your pinky or your ring finger is playing the G string, and the B and E strings are naturally muted also by your first finger, and your other fingers just simply resting on them. Press in on the notes that you want to fret, and the rest will be muted, like we went over earlier in this video. Here's what that sounds like with a metronome. I highly recommend trying to play these octaves, pressing down, and then lifting up as you strum. So you might go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So you notice that nothing really changed in my strumming hand. I just strummed down and I strummed up. But the difference was sometimes I was pressing down on the octave and sometimes I wasn't. So that can be kind of a fun way to practice rhythm and getting better at strumming. You can also accent some of your ups and some of your downs and so forth. Hopefully the examples in this video help you and show you that there is hope beyond just strumming down and up on the guitar, but you've got to use a metronome to practice and you've got to develop your internal pulse to really crack the code on rhythm and strumming. If you found this video helpful, there is a link to a packet in the description of this video that is full of even more information that will help you get better at the guitar today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.